Hey everybody, Mr. Kirkwald here. Even if you don't have me, if you have Miss Koonsman instead, I'm going to be making this video. Miss Koonsman's going to be making a few too, so you might hear my voice, you might hear her voice, but you're in the right place. So, what we want to do today is you are going to be taking some notes at home, and I just kind of want to walk you through them, explain what's going on with variables and all of that information so that you feel more comfortable with that. So, this week is September 21st through the 25th. And then you're going to click on the proper days. So if it's Monday, click on Monday. If it's Tuesday, click on Tuesday. You probably already done that, so that's how you're finding this video. So I'm going to start off with the Monday people first. You are going to click on our variable notes. We'll get to variables practice a little bit later. So when I click on variables notes, it forces me to make a copy. And then as soon as you make a copy, it looks like this. And then the very first thing you're going to do once you have your copy open is you're going to hit move, and you're going to move it to your 6th grade science folder. So mine's already in my 6th grade science folder here, but you would click on 6th grade science and say move here. So that way you have access to it for tests and quizzes later, and you know exactly where it is. So 6th grade science folder. The next thing I'm going to do is this. The easiest way to probably take these notes is just to pause the video and then write it out. If you want to, you can shrink your screen. So you could actually have this go halfway here. I don't know what that is. Um, you can go halfway here, and so you can have the video open on this side that you're watching me on, and then you can have your notes on this side. That might be the easiest way for you to go in and take notes. As you're going through, you may notice, Mr. Kirkwald, this looks really weird. I don't understand. I know. I already took a good chunk of these notes for you. The only thing that I did, though, was that I mixed everything up to try and help you be able to put it in order. So when we're going to walk through our variables notes, you are just going to put things in the proper order, or you're going to be typing things out. So I'll walk you through that. So this is my teacher copy here. I'll pull up. So today is all about variables. So variables are things that vary and change. Variables are just things that change. So when the weather changes outside, that's a variable. Okay, super simple. But we have 3 different types that we're going to focus on in 6th grade science. And then moving forward in your science career, this is going to be huge. And if you can remember the difference between these 3, each science teacher that you have for the rest of your academic career is going to just absolutely think you're awesome. So we have 3 different kinds of variables. We have an independent variable, a dependent variable, and a control variable. So you don't have this slide, so don't worry about that. But I want to go through what each of those are. So this is the first slide that you do have. So now you are going to probably want to pause this video for a minute, and then you're going to want to set it up just like I have mine set up here. So an independent variable. This is the thing in an experiment that you decide to change. So it's the thing that you want to change in an experiment. And we'll look at some examples. The dependent variable is the variable that changes as a result. So this is the thing that you're going to measure in your experiment that you're trying to find out. And then control variables, these are just variables that must not change. They just need to be the same for forever. So these are control variables are just the things that we're going to always keep the same, so that way our experiment doesn't get all messed up. So on our next slide here, this is where I want to talk about how your notes look. So you've already sorted all of this, good job. Now what we're going to do is this. I'm going to give you an example. We're only going to focus on independent variable right now. So what you're going to do is we're going to take a look at example 1 together. So we're going to take a look at an independent variable for example 1. So example 1 says investigating how a weight affects the length of an elastic band. So you can see in our picture here, essentially what's happening in this experiment is I'm putting a rubber band and I'm putting some weights on it and I'm seeing what happens. Okay? Now, if I add more weight, that's something that I am changing. I am putting the weights onto the elastic band. So the weight here is my independent variable. So I'm going to go into my notes here, and for example 1, I'm going to click in, and for independent variable, I'm going to say weight is my independent variable. That's the thing that I am changing in this experiment, okay? Now we're going to look at example 2. So click down to example 2, and I'll go down to example 2 here. Example 2 says investigating how the rate of cooling of a beaker depends on the initial temperature. This is super fancy science talk. Scientists love to use big words. If you use big words, people think you're smart. If people think you smart, they pay you a lot of money. So scientists are always trying to use the biggest words that they possibly can. So what's happening here is they heated up a beaker of water and then they set it on the counter to watch it cool. Okay? Now, the thing that I can change about this is the initial temperature. So I could make that water boiling. I could turn that water just to like 100 degrees. That's the thing that I get to change. So the initial temperature or starting temperature is my independent variable. So I'm going to go back here, and for independent variable in example number 2, I'm going to say starting temp. If you want to put temperature, go ahead. So that's example 2. Now let's take a look at example 3 together. So for example 3, investigating how the current through a resistor depends on the voltage across it. So those words might sound familiar to you, they might not. Essentially, this is just taking you might think of this from 4th grade if you've heard those words before. What we're doing is we have a resistor, or how current through a resistor depends on the voltage across it. So voltage right here is our battery, okay? This A here is our light bulb. So we are going to change the battery. So if I have a bigger battery, do I think that my light bulb is going to be brighter? Probably. So the voltage or the battery here is my independent variable. That's the thing that I can change. I'm not changing the resistor, okay? I'm not changing the light bulb. I'm just changing the voltage. I'm just changing the battery. So in here for my independent variable, the thing that I am going to change in this experiment is going to be the voltage. Now, we're going to go back to example 1 and let's take a look at dependent variables. So we know that an independent variable is the thing that I am going to change in an experiment to try and find something out. The dependent variable is the thing that you measure. This word measure is key. That's the thing that we're measuring, okay? So in example 1, investigating how a weight affects the length of an elastic band, I'm measuring how long the elastic band is. So length is my dependent variable, okay? So I'm going to go into dependent variable here, and I'm going to type out length of elastic band. So the weights that I put on are the things that I change. That's my independent variable. The dependent variable is how long the elastic band is getting. So we're going to go to example 2. For dependent variable, for example number 2, okay, I got to change the temperature. I got to turn up the temperature to whatever I wanted to. So that is the independent variable. The dependent variable, the thing that I'm measuring though, is the temperature of the water. So that's what I'm going to put in for example number 2, dependent variable. I'm going to put temp of water. Okay? Then last but not least, example number 3 for dependent variable. The thing that I am measuring, okay, I'm measuring in this one, I changed the battery size. So if I make the battery bigger, I'm measuring the current. So I'm measuring essentially how bright my light bulb is. So in the third example here, I'm measuring the current. So in dependent variable, I'm going to measure the current, which is just how bright the light bulb gets. So current, there we go. Dependent variable is current. Now, the easiest one here, we're going to go back to example 1, is control variables. Control variables are essentially everything else. These are the things that you don't want to change. So for instance, in example number 1, you should be using the same elastic band all the time. And you should be using the same scale so that you're not measuring the weights in grams and then in pounds and then in ounces. Okay, so for sure we're going to use the same elastic band the entire time. So control variables, I'm going to say my control variable is the elastic band. And you can have a ton of control variables in any of these. For instance, number 2 here, if we go to example 2, you should have the same beaker, the same amount of water, the same position in the room, the same room temperature. If you did this outside in the wintertime versus outside in the summertime, you're going to get a different result. So we want to make sure that everything possible is the same. So you're going to go in for control variables for example number 2, and I want you to write all those things down. And then for example number 3, you just want to use the same circuit. So you want to use the same copper wires that we're using. The temperature can also affect voltage and current, so make sure that it's at the same temperature and you're not doing it inside of a freezer or something. So you're going to type in our control variables here, the same circuit, same temperature at each time. So now you have, this does not look like this anymore. You've got notes for example 1, example 2, and example 3 for examples. And now we're going to go to slide 6 together. So for this, they're all jumbled up again, but I'm going to show you how they look together. So again, you're going to want to pause every once in a while and just move the words around where you need to. So an independent variable, this is just to recap everything here. The factor that I change during an experiment, and there should only be one independent variable. If you change more than one thing at a time, it's not a valid experiment, okay? So make sure that you're just changing one thing at a time. For dependent variable, this is the change that happens because of the independent variable. So if I increase the water temperature, or if I increase the heat of the beaker, the temperature is going to rise. So the dependent variable is what you're measuring. You might measure how tall a plant grows up, all right? And then last but not least, control variables. These are the factors that remain constant and unchanging so that your experiment is valid. Valid just means that it's correct, okay? So those are the things that we really want to focus on. You already hit move into your 6th grade science folder for this. Now, you have your notes done, you're good to go. The next thing you're going to do here is this variables practice. So I'm going to click on variables practice here. Mine's going to look different. I'm going to go to setup here, and then I'm going to give you 3 times. I'll give you, since it's kind of hard, I'm going to give you 5 times to do these examples. So for 5 times for each of these questions, I want you to go through, okay, and see if you can get the independent, the dependent, and control variables for each of my examples here, okay? So I want you to go through on each of the questions. I know mine's going to look different than yours, but I want you to go in and get the independent, dependent, and control variable on your own. So this is practice for you to be able to do this correctly. When I see you, or Ms. Kunzman sees you, or you'll get Ms. Kunzman's video tomorrow, we're going to be talking a little bit about the scientific method, and that includes these variables. So you guys are already going to have a leg up on all of that, okay? So notes, and then also the variables practice, and you're good to go. I will see you guys later. Bye.